Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Diski Discussions. I am maybe Basson. We've got another exciting podcast coming up this week as we unpack the opening round of DStv Premiership action, which included a 3-0 win for defending champions Mamelodi Sundowns over Kaizer Chiefs. We'll also talk about Pisto Mosimane, who reached a second Caf Champions League final this past weekend, following Ahly's comfortable aggregate win over Wydad Casablanca. Joining me to discuss all of this and more is Soccer Laduma journalist Mazola Molefe, aka Super Journo. Mazola is also a treasurer at South African Football Journalists Association and a huge Chelsea supporter. Mazola, thanks for joining me on Diski Discussions. Firstly, if we can maybe just start with your journalistic career, your journalistic path. When did you want to become a soccer journalist? Where did your dream start to become a journalist and pundit? And where you find yourself there?
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me, AB. I think initially I studied to be a diplomat. I studied politics, I studied international relations and sociology. So my career path was to be more in politics, diplomacy and all of that. But along the way, a friend of mine told me about a journalism graduate program, which was being run by Jonic Communications. That's what it was called at the time. It's now called, it's changed names quite a lot. It's now called Arena Holdings. It's got the Sunday Times. It had the Times newspaper in its infancy at the time. We know that it has since been shut down. It had the Sunday World, the Sowetan, all those, the Business Day, all those prominent newspapers, including the Daily Dispatch and the Herald in Port Elizabeth. So when I got that opportunity, I was in my final year, obviously deciding whether to study, to do post-grad, whether in further in journalism, honors in journalism, or, to continue with this whole politics and diplomacy idea. So I applied, because obviously in your final year, you don't put just one egg in all your eggs in one basket, if I can use that terminology. And then I decided, and then I got accepted. I think there are about quite a lot, maybe 200 odd applicants who sent in essays. They gave you a topic. You have to write about 400 or 500 words on it. Just something random, but they just wanted to see if you can articulate yourself and if you could get your points across, which, I guess they felt I did. And then I was called in for an interview. To cut a long story short, I ended up being one of the chosen 12. You can imagine from however many hundreds had applied. I ended up being one of the chosen 12 who got into the graduate program, which includes, at the end of the 12 months, yes, you get a little bit of money, a stipend. We don't really call it the salary. It was just a stipend for you to get by. And then, you get your diploma in journalism. I had already graduated with a degree at the time from Wits University, but then I also got my my diploma. But a few months into that, I started doing what I had envisioned to the industry I would have been in, which obviously politics and all of that. So I started writing about politics, but literally I was writing about everything really, because I was just starting out. I was an intern trying to figure out what it is that I want. The bosses were trying to figure out what it is that they think I can do. I wrote from entertainment to politics to sports, you name it, to business, I wrote all about it. And later on in that year, just before the then, the ABSA Premiership season, I think it was the 2008-2009 season started, the sports editor asked me to come to the sports desk because the Times newspaper was a few months old at the time. And they didn't really have a soccer writer. So they asked me to be a soccer writer until the end of the year, and let's see how it goes. So that's how I ended up writing football. After a few months, they offered me a permanent contract, and I started trying to understand the game a little bit more. Obviously, I was eager, obviously being a fan of the local game and having played at junior level as well, even at varsity, like any guy or any person that's interested in sport, when you get that opportunity, you're quite eager. So I had to learn my ropes and not be starstruck when I go to Naturena or when I go to the Pirates training session, or if I go to Klorkop, just to keep calm and know that I have to be professional. I'm doing a job and not want to take pictures with everyone, which I suppose the first couple of times you can be forgiven. But after a while, you have to grow out of it and know that you've got a job to do. And yeah, that's where it started. Sometime mid 2008, that's when I started writing about football.
And you now work for Soccer Laduma as a soccer journalist. I think we joined Soccer Laduma about the same time. For those who don't know, what exactly do you do on a weekly basis? Do you contribute mostly to the newspaper? Do you obviously do some things for the website as well?
Yeah, I think it's half and half. In total, my contribution is to the paper, obviously, which is the flagship of Soccer Laduma, and then we have the website as well, which I contribute with, mostly, quick breaking stories on there. Not so much previews and but on occasion I do a bit of analysis on there as well if the need arises, because obviously I am regarded as a senior journalist. Therefore, one would like to think that I am a football fit football authority. So my opinion counts. Even on social media, I suppose the social media following is a reflection of that as well. That people, respect your opinion and they want to hear from you. So that's what I do mostly, and my beats is mostly to follow, the big news, mostly, from Chiefs, from Orlando Pirates, from Mamelodi Sundowns, and anything else that happened. I mean, Wits was not necessarily the team that I was assigned to. I was not a team I was assigned to, but because the story was so big, obviously one had to step in there and have a sense of knowledge of what's going on and a sense of authority in delivering the content from that point of view.
I think 3 things I've picked up from your social media feed is your love for Chelsea. You love idols quite a bit, and
every Sunday,
and then your love-hate relationship with Mamelodi Sundowns supporters. The last one, why do you think that is? Obviously, I think any journalist covering a big team like Sundowns, I mean, they divide opinion a lot of the times. They sign players, but at the end of the day, they keep on winning. Why do you think that is? And then if you could maybe just touch on your love for Chelsea and where that came from.
Yeah, I can start with Chelsea. Growing up, I'm from Bethlehem in the Free State. My parents didn't have cable TV or DStv. We were only used to Mnet open time between 5 and 7 o'clock. So I never got to see international football unless it was playing on ETV. The only teams that I knew really were the teams that were playing in the Champions League, and I'm talking not even group stages, because I don't think ETV had the broadcast rights for the group stages. They only showed it towards the end, quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. So I only knew your Real Madrid, Manchester United, and I think in that time growing up, Chelsea were not that good. They were not able to make it that far. So I didn't really know about the team. I knew the big team, Juventus, Real Madrid, AC Milan, Inter Milan, those teams. Arsenal, I think, they were good at that point. Not so much now.
No comment.
And then when I got to Wits University in 2004, I was there at Res. The guys were watching English Premier League football every weekend, and I was wondering what is this thing, let me watch a few games and see if I like the football that's being played there. And I started watching a bit of English Premier League. And I think the first game I watched was a Chelsea-Newcastle game, and Chelsea beat Newcastle 4-0. It was Mourinho's era. It's the time that they won the championship. A lot of signings. Roman Abramovich had just arrived. So I figured, okay, this must be the team to watch. So I'll start watching more Chelsea games. That's how my love for Chelsea started. I watched one game on one Saturday evening with a group of guys who were used to watching the English Premier League week in, week out. That was the first time I'd watched the English Premier League. And I saw Chelsea play, win 4-0. I figured, if this team can play like this, if this team plays like this all the time. And obviously I started doing some research. The owners come in, they've got money. So I figured, okay, so this team could potentially be doing well because they've just got a new ownership. There's money, there's new signings. They also, what I like, they had a lot of African signings, Didier Drogba, Michael Essien, so they had those guys, which I was like, okay, these are the brothers from our continent playing for a big club in a big league. So I started watching and they didn't disappoint. Obviously, they kept winning and winning and winning, and they eventually were crowned champions. So that's how I started supporting Chelsea. And then Sundowns, I think with Sundowns fans, I try not to take it personal a lot of the times. Though the comments that I take personally, I block. So if there's a comment and I don't like it and it's personal, I block it, because we can engage on the subject, on the sport or what I've written about. We can engage, with emotional intelligence. But let's not offend each other in such a way that, it's not. That's not how we should do about things. Let's still respect each other. We can have an argument about the game, but let's not make it personal. So those that become personal, I don't have time for it. I just block it and move on. Because that's how it goes with cyber bullies. When they see you on the streets, they want to shake your hands. They want to talk to you about football. They want to, discuss. It's all happy clappy. But on social media, they insult you. They attack you. So if that's the arrangement, then I'd rather not see their views or hear their views at all, But I will continue without fear or favor writing about the club, because it is my job. And by the way, it's not just them. When I've written about Chiefs fans also now and again have a go at me. But the majority of them, what I like is the majority of them are not abusive. They might not agree with something, but they will just say it. And it ends there, and I can happily engage. Sundowns, Pirates fans, similarly. If they're not happy about something, they will voice it out, but it never gets to a point where it's so insulting that I have to block someone. I think I rarely ever block Pirates or Chiefs fans. The majority of the people that I've blocked on social media are Sundowns fans. And that's sad because, I want the engagement. When I write, my job is to please the reader. If I'm writing a story, it's for the reader to consume that content. If they disagree or have a different opinion, so that's great. But let's have respect for one another. Let's not insult each other. I think that's it. I don't remember. Was there another third question?
No, I think you've covered everything. Sticking to Sundowns, obviously we had the PSL Awards last week. Temba's won almost a clean sweep, 3 awards going his way. Do you think that was a fair reflection of what happened last season, and Sundowns obviously winning the league in the end?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why I was glad about that award, especially for the South African Football Journalists Association.
Yes.
Our members were able to put heads together. First, there was a panel made up of commentators and the executive committee voting on the 5 nominees, and Temba was there. And a few others, Nukovic, Lebogang Manyama, Hlompo Kekana. And then when it came down to it, our members, we have over 100 members on our, so in our books as the association. And, the majority, overwhelming majority voted for Mshishi. And I was glad because that's an award that as journalists on the ground, we were removed from being part of. I remember the days where we used to congregate towards every time closer to the end of the season, invited by various sponsors contributing to to this award, whether it's Footballer of the Season or whether it's ABSA Premiership midfielder, defender, whatever. Journalists were called in and would put our heads together, put the nominees and vote. But at some point, for one reason or another, that privilege was taken away from us. So, excuse me. So we were happy as Safja to now be back and be able to pick our own men's footballer of the year, because we did the female edition as well. Yep. So we were happy to do that. And, not like we're looking to be vindicated, but we showed again that we are just as credible, because the 16 coaches voted for the same player, and if you look at the nomination list, it's pretty much the same nomination list that Safja had. Gabadino Mango could have also been top 5 nominees, but we didn't do top 5. We did top 4, if I'm not mistaken. And the PSL, I think, had top 5 football of the season, because they couldn't separate the ones that were tied on votes and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Mshishi was the winner. And with Safja as well, Mshishi was the winner. So it shows that even though that award was removed, taken away from us, we still contribute, and our thinking as well. We see the games most of the time the same way the coaches see them, which is how they ended up able to vote for Mshishi. So yeah, I think there were no doubts about that award. I think it was to be expected, especially with Sundowns winning the league. I think if the league had gone to Chiefs, maybe Lebo or Samir would have been the obvious winners, and Ernst Middendorp would have been the obvious winner for ABSA Premiership Coach of the Year as well. So yeah, I mean, that's how it goes. For me, these things are often clear cut, especially if they are standout performers. For me, the lines are hardly ever blurred, unless you've had a super season where you just had 4 guys that were just neck on neck in terms of their performances week in, week out. But for me, and as it now has come out, for me, the coaches and the rest of the Safja members, Mshishi was the obvious choice.
And then obviously Sundowns go and start the new Premiership season the way they do, 3-0 against Kaizer Chiefs. What do you make of the performance? And do you think that's a signal of intent from them and a signal of warning from them as well, that they're going to go out there and try and make it 4 in a row? Even with the loss of Pisto Mosimane, I mean, that's a real statement of intent against the team that finished second last season.
Yeah. Look, obviously what Sundowns had to their advantage is that there's continuity, in the sense that Coach Rulani and Coach Mangoba are still there.
Yeah.
Secondly, they were able to reinforce, and obviously to their advantage, they are backed by a mining magnet. They are backed by a billionaire who's able to open the checkbook and just say, "Give me your list of player requests, and let's see if we can make it happen." And more often than not, they make it happen. Kaizer Chiefs, we all know, well documented, they have a FIFA ban. They're still waiting on the Court of Arbitration for Sport to overturn that. Therefore, they are not able to bring in any new faces. And Kevin Hunt desperately needs the new faces. I mean, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that he needs to reinforce. I mean, he's essentially inherited the same squad that Ernst Middendorp almost won the league with. And at the end, you could see towards the end of the season, especially in that bio bubble, Chiefs were not the same. If it wasn't for COVID, I think Chiefs would have won the league. Yes, credit to Mamelodi Sundowns for hanging in there. Even when Coach Pisto thought it was done and dusted, it was going to Naturena, they clawed their way back and they capitalized on Chiefs losing some crucial games, dropping some crucial points, and were able to win the league. But Chiefs are going to struggle this season. I mean, looking at the 2 performances so far, MTN 8 against Maritzburg United, even though they won 2-1 coming from behind, and the 3-0 loss to Mamelodi Sundowns, Chiefs are going to struggle. That team needs fresh faces. That team, especially if you're going to lose so heavily against Mamelodi Sundowns, it just dents your confidence, you know. A lot of people would have seen as well, Kune had a shocker, you know.
Yeah.
So let's hope Chiefs, look, it's good for South African football for Chiefs to have that ban overturned. If Chiefs can have that ban overturned, then you know that a club that's usually considered a title contender every season can compete. But without that ban, Gavin Hunt has got his work cut out for him. The team is decent enough to still finish in the top half of the table, but to win the league, when Pirates have reinforced, when Mamelodi Sundowns have signed 13 or 14 players, you know, it's going to be tough, you know. I mean, sometimes you even look at that TTM squad, you wonder, or the Amazulu squad, you think, you know, if Chiefs could sign, they could have had some of those players. Those are decent players that have been recruited, you know, especially when Pirates were releasing so many players. You'd think Chiefs could try and get a few of them. So let's wait and see. The transfer window only finishes at the end of November. And you hope in that time Chiefs can have a positive response from CAS about whether the ban is overturned. Because if they don't overturn it, you know, you may as well write off Kaizer Chiefs as a title contender, I think.
Some of the players that Sundowns brought in obviously include Kermit Erasmus, Peter Shalulile. How big of an impact? I mean, they both scored on the weekend, and George Maluleka obviously won the penalty, you know, Kune gave away. How big of an impact will they have, especially going onto the continent? And then on the other side of the coin, that's the problem that Chiefs face going onto the continent as well, is they've got to rely heavily on youth players now. You know, if that ban is not overturned, like you say, they can be in real trouble. Yeah.
Look, I asked Coach Mangoba about Kermit and Shalulile at the end after the game on Saturday, and he expects a lot, not just from Kermit and Peter, but from Gaston Serino as well, from Gift Mutupa, who's also signed from Wits, was Wits' top goal scorer, and also they still have Themba Zwane, they still have Zguso Vilakazi, who's got a long-term injury, but when he comes in, he will add value, and Lebogang Mabue as well. So they've got a lot of attacking options. But especially with the three out-and-out strikers, Kermit, Peter, and Gift Mutupa. Sundowns didn't really have an outlet in terms. Sundowns didn't really have an outlet in terms of you know, goal output, if I can put it like that. Last season, it's surprising that they were able to go all the way toe to toe with Chiefs, who had Samir Nukovic banging in the goals regularly, but this just goes to show the quality that was in that team. So now take that same team and add in last season's top goal scorer with 16 goals, and the guy right behind him with 13 goals in Kermit Erasmus, and Gift Mutupa, who also overall in all competitions got to double figures. You know, it's almost like an unstoppable team. You know. Sundowns fans might feel otherwise, might feel that it's criticism if you say this, but with the team that they assemble every season, they should be winning the league every season, hands down. You know, it shouldn't even be going to the wire. It shouldn't even be going down to the wire. They should win the league by February, March already, you know, with the quality. But of course, there's the traveling involved. And I think it comes back to my point again as to why I say Chiefs are going to struggle this season if they don't overturn that ban. Imagine having to travel up and down the continent playing in the Champions League, and then still having that same squad. You've not refreshed. You're having to rely on all those players. Look, Gavin Hunt is a master of the rotation plan. He done it so well for the last 6 years at Bidvest Wits, being able to rotate players and still winning the league in 2017 and a cup here and there, you know, and finishing in the top 2, top 3, top 4, you know. So, you know, that's look, I think it's going to be difficult for him at Chiefs, especially, like I say, with the traveling. But let's see. He's gonna have to horses for courses. So, but I think we can only really be able to comment on this with authority once the transfer window is closed. Because even if CAS overturn the ban, if the transfer window is closed, there's nothing that they can do. I suppose they can sign free agents, yes. And we know that Vets had a lot of free agents. Klanti is a free agent. Brendan Peterson is a free agent. Patichweto Nange is a free agent. They're already training at Naturena. So I think those deals are pretty much done. They just need, the permission to be able to register the player. So those will be three very big reinforcements for Kaizer Chiefs, if they are able to register them, of course.
Obviously, the man that turned Sundowns into a juggernaut force over the last 8 years is now sitting in Egypt with Ahly and Pisto Mosimane, obviously. And he's reached another Caf Champions League final. Obviously, he only joined them this season, so it's a bit hard to give all the credit to him. But he still had to do a job in Morocco, and he did the job in Egypt this past weekend. How big of a coup is that for South African football to have a South African coach at the biggest club on the continent?
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of time before Coach Pisto went that side. He had been in demand that side of the world for some time, especially during the time where there was a deadlock in terms of his Mamelodi Sundowns contract. But he had made the decision to stay, signing a 4-year deal. So it came as a shock, obviously, that he resigned. But we know we won't delve too much into the politics at Mamelodi Sundowns and the reasons behind him eventually leaving. But let's celebrate the fact that he's now gone into the Champions League final, and he's looking at potentially sealing a second Champions League title for himself. And, for Al Ahly, they've won so many. I think they've won 7 or 8, so they will be extending that record. I think, look, I still feel like the coach that they had, Rene Wela, obviously had won the league at the Kenta, long before the season was even done, long before COVID, it was done and dusted that Al Ahly would be crowned champions of the Egyptian Premier League. But they were not confident that he could get them over the line in terms of the Champions League. Hence, they felt, why not get the man who's done it before? Yes, he might have done it 4 years ago, but he's done it, and Sundowns are consistently in the Champions League, and not just the group stages, but even beyond that, quarterfinals, semifinals. So you think Pisto brings in the expertise, and especially if he brings in his backroom stuff. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to bring in everyone that he wanted there, including Coach Rulani. But he was able to bring in a performance analyst, a fitness trainer who he rates very highly and thinks can get the team into tip-top condition and get the job done. And then he was also able to recruit Kevin Johnson, who done very well with Platinum Stars a few years ago in the same competition as well. Whether he can take credit, look, for the league title, let's be frank, he can't take credit for that. Rene had already won it long before Coach Pisto arrived. But for the Champions League, I definitely think so. I mean, it's 3 games, three very tough games. Okay, people might argue that were nowhere to be found in those two games over the semifinals. But it was still a Wydad team that we've known in the past to have given Mamelodi Sundowns hard times, or to have given any club a hard time, and themselves having gone all the way in the past to win this competition. And then now obviously going into the final. So I think the coach has the right to take credit. Because he's not going into those 3 games with his eyes closed and just telling the boys to do whatever. He's implementing his game plan. He's implementing his knowledge of what to do at that stage of the competition. So if Al Ahly go all the way, which they look favorites to do it, why not take credit, Coach Pisto?
Back on South African shores, we've got a few fresh faces in the DStv Premiership: TTM, Swallows, and TS Galaxy. 3 different approaches. We had the whole 3 substitutes thing with TTM. TS Galaxy obviously buying Islands Park's status, and then Swallows winning promotion. What have you made of their approach towards the new season in their maiden voyage in the top flight? Okay, Morocco Swallows are well known in South African circles, but essentially it's Swallows FC, so it's a bit of a different team, but still the same history. What have you made of their maiden voyage thus far? And where do you see them finishing on the log table? Obviously, Swallows have made a lot of signings. TTM have only kept 2 players from Bidvest Wits. And TS Galaxy have mostly kept Highlands Park players, and they seem to have, their things together. Tim Sukazi seems to be very shrewd in the way he does business. How do you see them performing this season?
Look, TTM, despite all the drama with admin errors and blunders and what have you, only having 3 substitutes in their first game of the top flight, that MTN game against Supersport, they've shown a lot of heart. I've been impressed. I mean, and I said it even from the beginning when I saw the signings that they unveiled. Even when we were sort of breaking the stories about the players that they are signing. For me, it was always clear that they would do very well. You look at Justin Shonga, Alfred Ndengane, Mohakulodingele, who was obviously with Black Leopards last season and had already done a pre-contract with Bidvest Wits. They've shown a lot of heart. In that first game, 3-0 down at halftime, to come back and only lose 3-2, with the coach not really having options. I mean, he had 3 substitutes, one of them being a goalkeeper, so yeah, he didn't really have much to go on there. So for me, that was impressive that they've shown heart to fight back. And in general, I think they've got a very good team. It might have been a bit imbalanced in the first game, but I think they've got a very good team. If you look at the type of players that they've signed and their track record from their previous club. Obviously, some of them like Shonga and Dengane were not playing so much last season for Pirates, but what they can offer. On a good day when they are focused, when they are playing regularly, they can only improve. And it showed when they played against TS Galaxy as well, that they have the ability to be able to give a good account of themselves. So if a lot of people, obviously for various reasons, some are feeling, no, they should get relegated. They're embarrassing the league with all these blunders. A club as big as a club as big as Wits, with almost turning 100 years old, just selling a status. So some people are bitter about that, but Venda is celebrating. There's another section of supporters that's celebrating and that want them to stay up. And I think with that team, from what I've seen the last 2 games, I think that team can do very well. TX Galaxy, I've not really seen enough. I only watched about 50 minutes of their game yesterday against TTM. I think Dan Malisela, obviously we know his style of play can take a bit of time, because it's not often that you see South African players or any team for that matter playing the type of football that he wants to play, and it does take time, So I think let's see as the time progresses. But I think, like you say, they've kept the majority of the Highlands Park squad, and that squad, yes, they've lost Toby Mvala and Peter Shalulile, who were at the core of that team in getting them, to where they got over the last 2-3 seasons that they were in the team, and they were very fit as well. So can Dan keep to that fitness levels and all of that? Let's see. And then we look at Swallows. Swallows, I watched that game also, about 50 minutes or so of their game against Stellenbosch. Impressed with their signings, I must say. They've signed well. They've beefed up well. People are saying, they're like Sundowns. Why are they signing so many players? But the reality is that they only had a limited squad from the previous season in the Glad Africa Championship. So they needed to bolster that squad. And they've done a lot of loan deals, some of which I think are still being negotiated. So we might see another 1 or 2 come in before the transfer window closes. But, Brendan Trute, they've kept him there. So I'm happy that they kept a coach that was able to to help them gain this promotion. You know, teams, what they can do sometimes, they dump you as soon as they get promoted.
I think
they look for someone else with.
Yeah, Golden Arrows did that with Sean Bartlett, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. When they feel like, okay, now we're in the top flight, let's look for someone else with top flight experience. Because Brendan, they argue that Brendan is a lower division specialist. He's a Glad Africa specialist, but in reality, that team is the team that he got to where they are now. So let's see. I'm very impressed, with Swallows' signings, and even that first half was quite decent. In my opinion, from Swallows, especially playing away from home. So a point, not a bad way to start it all.
Mazola, before we say goodbye, this week marks 6 years since the untimely passing of Senzo Mayiwa. I think both of us were in Polokwane when he played his last game for Bafana Bafana. How big of a loss has Senzo, been to the country and to Orlando Pirates family as a whole? And obviously we're still awaiting answers on his death, and may his soul rest in peace.
Yeah, I think I saw something today that Minister of Police, Bheki Cele, is actually going to have a press conference to give an update on the latest regarding Senzo's case. I mean, it's 6 years. We've read story after story after story. We've even read stories about confessions, but no one is in jail as yet, So let's see. Let's hope finally there can be justice. I think Senzo's father as well, from what's being reported, he you could even argue that he died of heartache, because he just wasn't. He's one person who was clear with everyone that he just wasn't coping with his son's death, and the fact that no one. I mean, Senzo was shot in a room full of people. How can you be shot in a room full of people and no one can tell the police who killed you? Was there a hitman hired? Was it an inside job? What was going on? So finally, maybe this week we can get the answers. But it would be sad that it's 6 years later. But yeah, look, justice delayed is not justice denied. So even if this takes even longer, as long as at one point or another, those who killed our beloved goalkeeper can be brought to book and be put behind bars. That's what we wish for, so that the family can also finally get some closure and move on. He's dead, passed on and went to his grave without getting the closure that he needed. So let's hope the same does not haunt his mom, and the same does not haunt his children as well. So I'll be very eager to hear what Bheki Cele has to say this week about the Senzo case.
Well, Mazola, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us on Diski Discussions, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Pleasure, AB.
In next week's episode, we look back at the first leg MTN8 semi-finals alongside another prominent name in South African soccer circles. If you have any questions or things you'd like us to discuss on Diski Discussions, please hit me up at AB_Basson on Twitter or on Instagram. Aware.